on the Paint by Big Country Equipment.
All right, another episode of That's Hard on the Paint by Big Country Equipment. Today's guests are Zach Drennan and Jack Graves. Thanks for taking time out of your day to come hang out and visit with us. We've got two local entrepreneurs here hanging out, and I start with Zach. Kind of tell us about your background and your company, and if you were born, raised San Angelo, or but you call it home now.
Yep, I was born and raised here. Went off to Dallas, did about 9 years up there. Came back here, started a company, realized this is more my speed, and been here ever since.
Awesome.
So, yep, I have an oilfield service company. We do, the fancy way of saying it is on-site accommodations, but what it really is mobile homes built to go up and down lease roads half their life.
Motel 6.
Most just, hey, you call us, you'll be sitting on the couch watching TV that night out on location.
Now leave the light on.
Yeah, pretty much. It's very plug and play, and it's pretty fast paced.
Is the business headquarters out of Angelo, or is it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of the business is done in, I'm assuming, Midland, Odessa area.
Well, right now it's out in New Mexico and far west Texas. So we've got a yard here and we've got a yard in Carlsbad, New Mexico. Obviously, we started here, and kind of when Barnhart Big Lake kicked off, quite a few years ago, and then over time, right? Well, the Delaware Basin kicked off, which is the western basin of the Permian Basin. And when that happened, one of our big customers asked us, if we wanted to go out there. And of course we said, yes. When do we need to be there? They said yesterday. So we got there as fast as we could. Since then, activity around here has kind of slowed up, and New Mexico, our New Mexico yard, absolutely, it's the breadwinner right now. So.
If I called you tomorrow and I said, hey, I need to get one of those mobile offices set up, and I used it for a hunting camp, how fast could that get done? And I guess you need like electric and water already set up to haul out.
No, so we do all that. So it would
money
be
up front.
Money up front.
Yeah.
Coordinates later.
Can you fill out a credit app, please?
Yeah, I got Harrison's social memorized. I'll sign for him.
No, that's. I mean, if you're an existing customer, all that good stuff. If you call early enough in the day, it'll be there that day. And so we have the mobile home, trailer mounted generators, water systems, sewer systems, and all the heavy trucks to support that, to deliver the house. We haul potable water to you, to the water system we rent you. And then, as you use that, then we send, we have a septic truck, right? And then we go pump the septic off.
I'm surprised the Doomsday Preppers haven't called you.
We've had some interesting calls along the way for sure. Now,
can you add a gun safe to
it? Can you bury this on side of a hill?
Yeah. So everything's built to plug and play and move real fast, right? So, if you're out on a frac job, for instance, and we've got just a one house set up for you out there, when you finish pumping, that location, and generally you're going to move right to the next location. So you'd call, the night before, or and then we'd set it up and we'd move you to the next pad, and you'd be in your truck for, depending on how far we're moving, you'd be in your truck for, anywhere from 2 to maybe 6 hours, and then you'd be set up and ready to roll.
So I assume these are skid mounted.
No, we have some skid mounts, but most of them are wheeled mobile homes. They're specially built to go down lease roads and to do that kind of travel versus your standard mobile home. But we have both kinds. The majority of what we do is the wheeled mobile homes up. They're a little bigger.
How long you been in that business?
It'll actually be 15 years in just a couple days.
Oh wow!
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. So
well, I think there's a real opportunity though for hunting leases.
That's where once they get past their past their rental life,
Mhm.
that's where they end up.
How long does
So-
it take to get past their kill life?
Honestly, still don't know. So when we started, we bought used houses and refurbed them,
Mhm.
and those made it about 7 years under us. But I don't know how hard of a life they had before.
Right.
So since then, I think we built our first units in about 2013 or 2014, somewhere in there, and we still haven't decommissioned one. So I'm guessing about 15 years if you take care of it.
So
But-
like Ron White says, it's new shrubs, new bushes.
yeah. I don't. We can find out if you become a really good customer. Once it's time to decommission one, and you need a deer camp, then
Mhm.
you get a deer camp,
Seen
right?
some rough, seen some rough stuff on a deer camp. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like dove hunt, leasing stuff like that.
Yeah, we've done some dove hunt leases. Jack knows too much.
I'm gonna have to dive into that later.
Yeah,
that's
we may.
that's a fifth quarter deal there.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. Yeah, we, sometimes you got to pick your jobs, right?
Yeah.
And so,
And your customers.
and your customers,
So is Jack a good customer?
You know what Jack is? He's a really good reference,
It's a really, really smart guy to lean on.
but you've got to call him before you do stupid stuff.
Or? Oh, I see.
Not after you've done the stupid stuff, and you got to call before. So I've learned that lesson.
It called a little late.
Yeah.
Hey Jack, we just rigged up this 10-house job out so and so and so. Oh, good luck, bud. Oh man, wish I would have called you a week
I said,
ago.
man, hey, look at it. Will be a good write-off.
Yeah.
You got
That charity work is cool. I'm proud of you. Appreciate you doing that and helping them out.
And that's when I learned the lesson of 70 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jack, how long you been in San Angelo? Are you a native?
No, I'm from Stephenville, Texas. Went to college in Abilene. Met my wife there. She's from Bront and ended up here. We had Jay's processing from 2005 till 2024, 23. So it was 19 deer seasons. Then we started J Bar in 2020, and now we just do J Bar meats.
So you went from deer processing to beef.
Yeah, but not we're not processing beef. It's further processed. So we make a bunch of different sausages, jerky, snack sticks, and we private label for, I want to say, about 50 different customers now. So this day and age, everybody they want their name on it, regardless, right? Obviously, Big Country Equipment doesn't make jerky.
We
Right?
could.
I mean, but
Big Country
it's
Jerky
cool,
sound really
but it's
good.
cool to have Big Country Equipment
Right.
on.
Yes, sir.
So we do, locally for some banks here, for small field companies, they hand out at golf tournaments stuff. And then we have some accounts that are in quite a few convenience stores from here to Midland to Lubbock to Amarillo mainly.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going all right.
What pushed y'all to go that type of industry?
It was kind of easy to get out of the processing because our kids, we were kind of at crossroads. We needed help. At that point, we were trying to run two businesses, needed help at both. But one kept you there from about 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. for about 100-ish days straight. And the other one, there was a little more free time. And so we had a guy that worked for me forever that wanted to buy it forever. And he did. And we left when he bought it. And then, but he's doing really well. So, but yeah, it was the industry. I thought I wanted to be a coach, but I didn't have any money. That was kind of a big deal, not having any money at all. And so my brother-in-law actually talked me into opening the processing here. It used to make me mad because he didn't go to college and he had cool stuff, cool boats, cool trucks, and I had no money. I was like, man, this is ridiculous. He's got a bunch of cool stuff and I have no money. And I just got out of college and he's like, well, you're an idiot. So anyway, he talked us into putting the process in Angelo, and he ended up being right. So, I mean, could have not worked out, but it did. So,
Well, that's pretty much every risk an entrepreneur. You're
Yeah.
throwing the dice on the table and see if you ace it or you go home broke.
But if you didn't start with anything to begin with,
Oh.
that had to help a little bit.
yeah. I mean, it was, I was kind of lucky because her family was in this business.
Mhm.
And so I guess the business model was proven
Mhm.
somewhat. So it wasn't like it was a risk because you got a guy that knows nothing that's running it. And, but we did have a lot of support from them. I mean, we really couldn't have gotten that big a bind because when we ran low on help, they showed up and helped early on
Yes.
before we knew or could afford a lot of help. They came and helped us out to get through the harder times.
When you were in the process of selling your first company, were you approached or were you actively trying to sell?
No, we weren't. We were not actively. I actually tried to talk him out of it about a month before.
Really?
He just had twins. And I said, man, I know you got a great marriage, but I'm telling you, that's fixing to change. You've got twins and you're buying this. You're going to be gone 100 hours a week.
Mhm.
Like I think this is a really bad idea this
Mhm.
year. And no, we got it. And somehow he did that. He's got great in-laws. Parents helped him a lot, but I mean, it had to be tough.
Mhm.
You kind of act like they just, hey, we made it work, but it had to be really, really hard.
Absolutely.
Having twins is hard enough, but having to be at work all day and all night, all weekend.
And a new business owner.
Yeah. So I said, man, if you can make it this year, you ought to be able to make it just about anything.
Yeah.
And how did y'all meet? How did y'all become friends?
Golf.
Probably golf.
Yeah, definitely golf is the short answer. I don't know how long we've known each other. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. We, we started, it's kind of funny. We started playing golf, then that we end up sitting around and drinking beer and hanging out and laughing a lot. And then, so that just turns into more golf. And then, now we played all over the place together now. So
Mhm.
yeah, but that was, I would say golf. I know Zach, we dealt with Zach's dad's customers at one point, oilfield customers.
Mhm.
And that may be the very first time I'd met him, but yeah, then, then he big balled me about how good he was at golf. And
Mhm.
here we go.
Uh-huh.
So y'all,
What's
what?
a better golfer?
Yeah, who's
Zach's probably a better golfer.
Don't ask today though.
Zach's got a little head issue. Not a talent issue.
Going through a little funk.
So what was the golf course that y'all started that y'all were playing at that y'all met at?
Sac.
SAC.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how long y'all been members at SAC?
2007. I've been there since 2007, I believe, like October-ish of 2007.
What is it? 25. So I was later. I bet I was what 2016,
Yeah, probably.
2017, somewhere in
Probably
there.
been close to 10 years.
Yeah,
Around
coming
that.
up on.
Sterling called me last year and said, Harrison, we got to do something for ourselves. And I said, really, Sterling? Like, what are we going to do? And he goes, I think we should
Careful.
join the San Angelo Country Club. And I go, why would we do that? And he goes,
Because I want to.
and, well, no, he threw it as a business pitch. He goes, I think we go there and make a lot of connections. We can take our customers there. We can go eat there. Like, it's close to the houses, like the whole deal. I go, all right. I said, first question is, can we afford it? Because, growing up, we'd never been part of any club other than 4-H. And that was an expensive club. And I was like, do we bake pies? What do we do? Like, what do we offer to this group that they don't already have? And apparently it's American Express. And so I said, all right, well, first question is, can we afford it? And the day that we can't afford it, we got to leave. And he goes, yeah, we can afford it. It's not a bad deal. They're about to redo the golf course and it's going to go up. So like now's the time. I thought we were chasing the stock market. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. Well, I went probably like the first week. We went and played around golf, and then I had been gone. I had been going to meetings all over the place. And I come back, and Sterling's like, "Well, let's go play around the golf, and then we'll go in the 19th hole." I didn't even know golf had 18 holes. Rather, 19th hole. What's a 19th hole? And so we go in there, we go sit down, and I was like, "Man, this is pretty unique. Like, this is a cool like shindig. Like, Sterling, I think you might be right." And I sit down. It's my second time, and this waiter comes up and goes, "Mr. Cothman, would you like another ranch water?" And I go, "Man, how do you know my name?" And I turn around and it's Sterling. And he's bringing Sterling ranch water. And then at the end of the month, I see the credit card bill, and I knew exactly why he knew Sterling.
Good service.
Good service. But
Yeah.
I'm really glad we did it. He was right about meeting people and getting to enjoy the free time. And now that I guess September is when the course is going to reopen.
It's October. Should be early October. That's if everything goes good, right? It's
Yeah.
construction, so
So I'm excited. I still suck at golf, but I attempt.
Still fun.
well, you can suck on a newly renovated golf course, just like you can suck on
you
an
have
old golf
more
course.
excuses now because it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah.
Well, somebody asked me, they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you golf?" I was like, "Yeah, I golf." They go, "What's your handicap?" I said, "Just mentally."
Me and you need to talk, man.
Yeah, that's been a cool experience. I wish we would have done it sooner, but that whole renovation is going to be really neat over there. And I like we had our first Christmas party there, not our very first Christmas party, but before, we would just rent out like a room at a restaurant or something for our business. And we actually did the river room out there and had the little bar in the corner and stuff. And I was like, man, this is the first time we felt kind of legit as a company having a Christmas party at a place, So they offer a lot of cool things. But no, I mean, and I got to meet y'all through the Livestock Show Syndicate, and y'all been really cool to talk to and learn about what's going on in the community. And Jack, you started the syndicate, right?
We both did. There was, I
Both.
think, 5 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were looking for a way to. I think we kicked around like, what can we do as a, not necessarily a bunch of young successful guys, but hey, just young guys that want to do something to help. And then we talked about Stock Show. We had buddies that are in the Fort Worth Syndicate, and what they do is pretty incredible. So we meet at Fuzzy's.
Yeah, I'm sure it was last minute, probably a couple days before the sale,
And
with an idea.
Hey, and here, our business plan on napkin, baby. This is what we're going to do. We're going to, if anybody doesn't have any money, we're going to try to help these bottom kids. Unfortunately, there's a lot of that. It tapers off to nothing. But that was the goal day one. It was Landon Brockman, Jamie West, John Duke, and I believe us two at the very first meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And
Good group of guys.
yeah, I mean that was the goal, and never in a million years thought it would get to or this quick. But it's crazy to support that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
especially go ahead.
What year was this?
19.
2019.
Yep.
Yeah.
2019.
The day of the first sale, I don't know. We literally did. We met like 2 days before and somehow put together. I think we raised like 17,000 or something in 2 days, like a
It
bunch
was
of
nuts.
idiots, right?
These guys
We
told
thought
Jamie to
Woodford's
pull his
changed the
commission.
world.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. We get to the sale, right? And we have this money, and we don't really know how the auction works, and so we're learning that on the fly. Everything's on the fly, right? Anything new, and the coolest part about the day, right, is kind of when it's all said and done, and you look back and see, what you did, how many lots you bought, where things got slow, and we sped up, and that still happens today, even
It's
though
a
we're
lot bigger scale.
it's just a bigger scale, right? But yeah, the same feeling, like kind of at the end of the sale, is a good feeling. But that one specifically, the first one, I don't know how many people, throughout the day would either come up or you'd see at the bar or whatever and say, "Man, I love what y'all are doing. I love your concept. I love your thought, like what y'all are trying to do." Well, like we didn't tell anybody that, somehow it just
Word.
percolated
There was a buzz
in the
pretty-
room
pretty
that
quick.
day, right? And felt like everybody in there knew what we were trying to do. And
Well, I have a lot of meetings with these big corporate companies, and they're like, "You need to invest more in social media. You need to invest more in all this other marketing." I said, "Guys, y'all don't understand West Texas. West Texas is still Wild West of, your word means something, your actions mean something, and so it just carries such a heavy tune. It's such a big place west of I-35, but everybody knows everything, and that good news travels so fast." And so Sterling, he had called me and said, I think we need to change what we're doing, because we were just sponsoring the rodeo, right? That's what we were doing. And he goes, I think we need to take our marketing budget and take those funds and join the stock show syndicate. And I said, well, what's the difference? He goes, I don't think our money is going to the kids with this other program, and I think we could impact individuals directly with this. And as a donation, you're not looking for anything in return on marketing. I don't believe you should. And for us, like we were always very blessed with the fact of people were there. Our parents did very well about getting donors to our livestock projects. And y'all are bringing that to people that don't have all those resources. And when he brought that to me in our budgeting meeting, I said, let's do it. It was a no-brainer. So I think y'all's program absolutely sells itself, especially in West Texas, because it's something you don't have to market. It's something that it is word of mouth, and that's very unique in the donation world.
Mm-hmm.
The crazy thing about the sell day is we have a lot of there's a lot of great big donors. HEB, Jim Bass, there's a bunch of big guys that come in and pump a bunch of money into it. And they should. These people do a lot of business with them. When that money runs out, though, if there's not, I think our first year when we really broke the numbers down, it was crazy to see, say, a kid from Miles get $15,000 on a lamb, and the next one get $600.
Yeah.
Like it was unbelievable. I'm like, God, how embarrassing is that to drive all the way over here from wherever, from East Texas or wherever, you finally make a city, come over here, and it's like a slap in the face. Like, this doesn't even cover
It's the backyard.
your diesel.
Yeah.
So to that point, when we started, I think it was 500. 500 was the floor, right? And I don't know that we even knew what the floor was.
I mean, that's what you got.
But
Nobody bid.
If
You went
nobody
with
bid, you got
$500.
$500.
So
You're
you're losing money just driving here.
Yeah. So each year since, that's really our mission, right? Raise the floor, right? It's not about any one specific kid, one specific project, one specific species.
Or adding it to the grand champion.
Or adding to
It's
the
all
grand
about
champion.
Raising the floor.
Raising the floor to make it worth, their time, to help cover expenses to get here, right? Hotels, feed, all the stuff. And so I think the floor was 500, if I remember right. It's 500 or 600 that first year. And last year, no lot sold went for less than 2,500 in a matter of, that was 5 years. That's a pretty
Worst case scenario,
it's a pretty
you
big
get
difference.
That does cover a lot of
That's
expenses.
right.
That'll at least get you to our show and back very comfortably, right?
And you wanted at some point, you wanted people, when they sit down, mom and dad sits down with their kids, where are we headed? We didn't want to give them an option. We wanted them to say, well, we got to go to San Angelo. The money's too good.
Absolutely.
We have to, we don't want them to cut us out. I mean, it's not worth putting San Angelo on your itinerary if you're going to come get $500 for getting second place. I mean, that makes sense, right? But now it's like, hey, he's got $4,500 for second place. Like, hey, this is
a good
and
place
it's
to
worth
go.
the deal.
It's a
So
good place to go.
we didn't want to give them an option. Like, hey, we have to be on. And in turn, we had the numbers last year. I wish I did, but like the economic impact of the show growing this much, like double on entries. Obviously, it's not all from us, but I wholeheartedly think word of mouth had something to do with people saying, hey, man, we just got 7,000 for this. Hey, I think in that small community or small, close-knit community, word of mouth travel, and people are like, we're going. There's no, I mean, to double your entries, it's a big deal. So restaurants, hotels, it's huge when we double what was coming.
Absolutely.
You know, so I know I take pride in it. I don't know if they even think about it.
I think they definitely do. I mean, as far as someone who is a showman, I mean, we grew up showing sheep and lambs growing up, and
Some turkeys.
we always said at the beginning of the year after we went and bought lambs, said which ones are we going to take them to, right? So my very best one, it didn't matter who the judge was, I was going to take it to San Antonio. Like I could always have add-ons there. It was the most opportunity to receive the most for my project, and that is something certainly county agents, FFA, teachers do. I mean, they're certainly looking at that and they're talking to these kids and these parents saying, hey, they should take their project here. And there's economic levels of people showing, obviously. You know, there's some people pour hundreds of thousands of dollars into it, but a bulk of it is a lot of kids with, you know,
School projects.
that they're keeping up at the school, and you know they might have a $250 club lamb, and their budget was $1,000 for feed that year, and then the school is hauling their animal and paying for their entries into the show and things like that. But so if you're raising the floor to $1,500 or $2,000, they actually might be able to walk away with a net profit from their 4-H project.
Right.
And the 4-H and FFA deal was never meant to be an economic driving force to make money. It was a way to say, hey, you're going to raise this piece of livestock. You're going to learn how to take care of it. You're going to learn about nutrition. You're going to learn about responsibility. And then you're also going to learn to create a budget as you do it. And it's going to teach you life skills. So even if you lost money, you gain some value in learning those skills. And, you know, I did it from 3rd grade to 12th grade. So by the time I was in 12th grade, I had a really good idea of how to run a budget and what type of animal I was looking for. So most certainly, you know, I think it was after like our first 3 years of showing, we entered in everything. And after that, I was like, nope, I'm going to go to 3 shows. I'm going to go through 3 major stock shows. And to speak to your point, we stopped coming to San Angelo because of the low floor price. And I wasn't living in San Angelo when I was growing up. It was more Central Texas. So
It was a long drive.
There was a drive there. But absolutely. And you have more entries than that, you know, if there's 50 sheep in a class, well, maybe it's not the top 3 that make sale anymore. It's the top 7, right? And so the more entries you get, the more opportunity you have to make the sale. And that's another point. So I don't know how much of it's changed since I quit showing however many years ago, but that was certainly something that I had considered when we were. And another kind of a funny story that's kind of related. One year, Harrison, we'd go down to the barn to work sheep, and Harrison say, I'll be right back, I'm gonna get something, and I wouldn't see him for the next 3 hours working sheep. He'd be on a backhoe or something. But we had 2 lamb entries in San Antonio, and I actually had a class winner, and Harrison was in a heavyweight class, and he was 6th or 7th hole, like just barely made the sale. And we come back for the sale at the end of the week, and it started in the morning. And Dad always paid, $100 to go into the buyer's lounge and where he'd work on his add-on money and he'd feed us and we'd do the sale deal, and it was a fun experience. And I guess they had a wreck, like there was a bad wreck on 35 that morning. And so like half the people that were supposed to be at the sale, the buyers, weren't there. And I was expecting about $8,500 for this first place class winner. And I think I came out with like $1,800. I was bummed. I was so bummed about it. Which Harrison, 7th place, he was like, all right. I think I sold at like 9 a.m. They were like, all right, Harrison, you're going to sell at 1 p.m. And they had a little hat booth there. And he goes, Harrison, and Harrison always walked around with Caterpillar boots, cat keys. I mean, he was obsessed with cat iron. I find it like really ironic now today.
Because all I do is sell against cat.
You don't ever hear about it either, do you?
I was born in the darkness, molded by it.
And Dad goes, Harrison, see that guy over there? And he goes, yeah. He goes, that guy owns the San Antonio Spurs. Harrison like, well, I don't give a shit. Like, what's the San Antonio Spurs? And
Also,
he goes, also Peter Holt. Harrison knew
Yeah.
exactly who Peter Holt was. And he goes, go over there, go make him a hat. It says, I think it said Harrison's Construction Services or something on it. And go make him a hat. Go give him your cat keys and go introduce yourself to him. And so he walks over there. He's sitting 4 rows back, kind of hanging out, raising his hand, spreading out his bids. Harrison goes, you couldn't have been 9 years old,
Maybe, if that.
And he walks over to him and introduces himself. And he actually takes the hat. He goes, no, I don't need the cat keys. Thank you, though. And shows him his boots, and, he kind of lights up, right? Like, what little kid knows who Peter Holt is at this livestock sale? And a couple hours later, Harrison's, he gets up there with his lamb, and I'm up there holding his ribbon with him. And that old lamb sold for like $11,000. That 7th place club lamb did, So, and then we were just stuck on like that was the show we needed to go to because of that kind of experience and because of what you could do. So like I said, it definitely plays a role in when kids determine where they're going to.
Sterling was learning how to budget and guide and how to pick sheep, and I was learning how to outsource, and which made it work now because we had to work together as a team. And so Sterling would always which lamb to buy, and our dad, kudos to him, he made us go do it. There wasn't call if you
he
need
put us in the truck with complete strangers that were taking us to sales to go buy sheep, and he would write out the check, and put the number on it. He goes, that's your budget. And that was when we very first started, being 8, 9, 10 years old. And then kind of after we had some success, he would take away. I mean, we were subsidized a little bit, we had our diesel paid for and stuff.
Sure.
Our budget was basically for buying sheep the next year, but here's
all the tools. This is the life lessons I want you to learn, but you either need to be successful on your own or you need to fail on your own. And you two boys are going to do it together. And that made a lot of fights in the barn because Sterling needed my help to drag a sheep, and I didn't want to drag a sheep or run around the track. I probably now, looking back, should have ran around the track a couple more times. But, it was a lot of those skills that we learned in 4-H, FFA, going to the stock shows, fixing. I mean, first time I ever fixed the trailer lights, going to a stock show middle of the night was, doing that. We've learned so many life lessons doing it, and kids need to learn those activities and learn to work together in a setting.
Yeah, hell, Dad tried to get us a hardship license so we could go to the shows by ourselves, and that was all that. It wasn't that he didn't want to support us, but I mean, he'd show up on show day and say good job, and he'd go back to work, but he wanted us to. And don't get me wrong, I guarantee you there's kids like that coming to San Angelo Stock Show where 100% of it is their entire investment, And so when Tommy brought me to the first meeting with y'all, I mean, I was all in from day one because I was like, out of everything that we get asked to give money to, this is the one I want to support the most. I mean, out of everything, I mean, it's just, there's so many benefits to it for someone who's donating or receiving, as far as like how it makes you feel, or if it's a cause that you care about. And then on the receiving end, like, you never know how $250 or $500 could completely change a kid's outlook on it. Especially, let's say a kid's gone to 6 shows for 6 years, class, hit the truck, and then the next show he goes to, he's thinking about quitting, and he makes the sale. And then before the floor was 500, he goes, man, I only made $500 on this thing. Like, I'm going to quit doing this. But instead of being 500, it's $2,500. It gives them enough, courage to be like, I'm going to do that again. Yep. And that's awesome. I think the syndicate is really important. And I think the model, you talked about the Fort Worth syndicate. I didn't even know that existed before. And it's even more impressive. Was $200,000 last year?
Us in San Angelo?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, $200,000 raised from a group of men in a small community, and even though it's 100,000 people here, it's still a small community. When you're comparing other major livestock shows, and they're
Oh yeah.
what they're in, the size of San Antonio, the size of Fort Worth, the size of Houston. I mean, he's putting up 200K in a year, and most of it doesn't come in a year. I mean, how much of it was like within 48 hours of the sale?
God, it gives
Almost
me
half.
anxiety thinking about it.
Yeah, 100 grand 2 days before the sale coming
Yeah.
in.
It's
That's,
a-
you know, I can
Checks
barely
in the
even,
mail.
I can barely even talk to Jack getting close to it. He's just like, yeah.
Who's
And,
off?
You know,
Who's awful?
What we've done, what I feel is like, a bunch of
Fourth
good
quarter,
things. We 100% are a fourth quarter crew, which is, it's good. It works, right? One of these days
Till
we'll
it doesn't.
learn to get a little bit more ahead of the game. But as long as we keep producing.
Whenever y'all learn, tell the Cowboys how to do it.
Yeah.
I think Zach probably agree with me. It's grown to be one of my favorite days of the year.
Mhm.
Like that, after the show, it's the most gratifying. I don't know. I get more out of that day than probably. It's nuts. The feeling. It's hard to describe
It is.
the feeling. Those kids in the back are crying, hugging you. It's a weird feeling. And like I said, you have no idea their background.
Mhm.
You have no idea if it's mom and dad, if it's just mom, you have no idea. But to see the ones that it really affects and the raw emotion, it's nuts.
Mhm.
And it is the notes we've had. I mean,
The crossbow.
probably 1,000.
The
notes
crossbow's
by
got
now,
to be the best one.
I think so too. That kid said,
So they have, if
thank
we
you
if we
notes.
buy them in the sale, then they have to write a thank you note, and we get a stack of them every year. Go
he
ahead.
says, "Dear San Angelo Stock Show Syndicate, thank you for buying my project. With this money, I will use this money for my future projects, and if there's enough left over, I'm gonna buy a crossbow."
It says something to the tune of my mom said no, but I think I'm still gonna do it or something like
Even
that.
though my mom said I couldn't have one.
Yeah.
But I'm like, guys, we don't have any. We don't. Never mind. I said we should send him a crossbow,
Yeah, we
Yeah,
should
and then
need to track him
we
down.
talked. We
Liability.
send him a crossbow.
Yeah.
He shoots mailman. What can go wrong? Where do you get that? Nonprofit.
It sure wasn't the syndicate in San Angelo.
Just don't put the
But it was
return
really funny.
dates on it.
Yeah.
It's just a raw. That is a. Mama didn't see that. That kid, she's like, go write the letter. He's like, cool.
Yeah.
Here's my letter.
Yeah.
But no, there's been some great ones. But those, I enjoy seeing those letters. It's really neat.
Mhm.
But yeah, those kids, we've had plenty of hugs,
Mhm.
taking plenty of pictures with them, and it's awesome. Like I said, I look forward to that day. Like I wake up that morning excited, and then afterwards, long day, but you felt like you've done some good,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So that's the
Well, the whole premise behind Stock Show is to teach, right? It's not supposed to be a profitable gig. It's like Stern was saying, it's supposed to be instilling knowledge for the future. Just like we have attributes that we still use today.
creating leaders for the future.
But you gotta also realize, I was talking to a buddy in college years ago, and he would help out with his hometown stock show. And he would take a week off of school and he would go help out with all the stock shows and come back. And I asked him, why do you do that? He goes, because I grew up in a home that I didn't have anything. And when I got to go spend time with those animals, I got to connect with it. I got to learn from it. I got to be with other kids. I got to be with the people that I want to grow with. And then I got to learn how to sell that project and learn to let some of this stuff that I was dealing with at home go. I got to grow with it, and then I get to let it go, and then I get to restart. And I
That's
think
interesting.
building those life lessons to not only help us in the economics or help us in the future of developing our careers, but also somewhat on the emotional side of it, of being able to let kids deal with probably home issues and then developing and letting that go throughout their livestock project. And I think that's why some kids get really attached to their projects.
yeah.
Well, and then it's not just for the sale, raising money for the mechanics.
Guys,
Yeah.
it's huge.
That's been
It is.
huge.
It is that thing took off in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody had ever, I mean, no one had ever really tried to build it, right? It was just
Yeah.
kind of there.
It's harder, right? Because there's no sale for the there's no formal sale for the project. So I feel like our group, the guys that kind of inside the syndicate that focus on the ag mechanics, eventually one day they're going to figure something really good out there.
Mhm.
And I think it's gonna do something cool. What it is, I don't know, but they're figuring out how to really, either buy projects or just get more involved.
Expand
there.
on the ag mechanics, because there is so little that people know about it. A lot of people know about stock showing, but what about ag mechanics?
I mean, we raise money for that too, right? You can, if you donate, you can say 50% of that goes to ag mechanics, 50% to the sale, 100%. You can, if you're a donor, you can tell us which direction you want it to go on that front. But then, as far as ag mechanics go, right? Schools and or individuals, will build a project. They'll enter in, I don't know how many categories there are. There's a ton. Enter in a category, let's say there's a trailer category, there's a game category, there's like a furniture, there's quite a bit. And either that kid by themselves or at their school with a group of them, they'll build that project out and then take it around to shows. So it's not, the shows aren't, and I don't know enough honestly about how that side of it works, but they don't lose their project, right? So that's their project for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll take that one from show to show to show. And some of them already have prearranged agreements, right, back home or wherever to sell that to somebody, or to give that to somebody. But it's just it's a little different animal. The thing with ag mechanics that got me, I've seen it. I've gone and seen the projects and all that, but kind of real quick, didn't really spend the time and walk up and down every aisle until I think it was either 20 or 21. And I'd been telling myself, man, I want to go over there. I want to go over there when it's quiet, right? And really look at these projects. So it's in the spur, and the spur is jam packed full of projects, and there was nobody in there but me. I was like, perfect. I wanted to really kind of pay attention and see what all was out there. And so I did up and down, left and right, whatever. And there was one kid, I wish I would have got his name. There's one kid standing by his project, ready to present his project and tell you all about it to anybody that came by. Well, all the other kids were gone. It was late. It was late in the day. All the other kids had said, you know what, all the visitors are gone. I'm done, except for him. He was still standing there, with his looking professional, right? Just in case somebody came by. So sure enough, go over there. And he presented his project extremely well. Where he sourced his materials, what type rods he was burning, you name it. His paint color, why he chose that paint color, every aspect of the project. And that hit me on the ag mechanic side that, man, this is pretty cool. I hope we figure something out there, figure something out big there. So it's neat.
That those trades are so, we were kind of talking this before podcast, but not just San Angelo, just everywhere, trades are so hard to get new people into. And so that is a great model to teach, woodworking, manufacturing, just the outsourcing aspect of how to build a project. That translates in any aspect of industrial companies nowadays. You'd be surprised how many people don't know how to go source materials.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a great education. As I hope more schools teach it, because there is such a lucrative market for our youth going into the next, we were talking about it to lunch, this next 10, 15 years, there's going to be such an advantageous market for this youth to grab a hold on, because the last 20 years was technology. Every school invested so much in technology. Now that you got AI coming out, we got some other stuff coming out with technology, and we've lost that workforce for this trades. Man, anybody that learns it is going to rocket with it. And so the fact that 4-H, FFA schools they're running with it is, astronomically awesome in my opinion. And so, are y'all looking at trying to put a program together for donations for it?
We already have one, and there's like a subcommittee, inside the syndicate that focuses on that, and they do really well over there. They hand out. Do you remember how many Milwaukee tools? It's hundreds
of drills and saws, and we partner with Angelo Plumbing Supply.
Yep.
They're unbelievable, and Grogan's, and with our guys get together, and I want to say like 80% of the kids got something. I don't know. I wish I knew the exact. It's a bunch. Like nobody. Some kid. You're going home with Milwaukee drills.
Right.
Just and it's a random draw. It's
or
not
backpacks or pack-out kits.
First, second, third. It is random. Just draw them. Here we go. Come on. And so these kids are coming up like, really? And I think got everybody gloves last year. Everybody tape measures, but the large majority of the kids were home with power tools. And they were like, that's neat. I show up, show this, and hey, I got $300 for the drills I'm taking home. So, but they set a deal up that subcommittee, like Zach said, sets up and just hands out. It's great. And that, I think, word of mouth has went kind of crazy with ag teachers. But one of the goals we had talked about, we've got some guys, like some long-term donors involved. And when all that stuff kicks off, we had talked at one point about maybe an application for these schools that maybe don't have a welder, right? So hey, I think the only criteria is you have to come to our show, you have to come send. But hey, fill out an application for whoever, Cristobal ISD. Hey, this is what we don't have. I think it'd be really cool to drop ship them a welder from us, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And I think that is something that is going to be real pretty quick. But that welder can be used by the next 1,000 kids that go through the shop.
Touches everybody.
I know some of the schools that don't have a lot of money, they may go to Zach's house. He may have a welder, so he lets kids come over and do the projects there, right? So it would be neat to help outfit ag barns, and that in turn, hopefully, will push kids to more, into more of these fields.
Well, we need to sit down and have a conversation later on. New Holland is partnered with Snap-on, and I think they have a program. New Holland sponsors our show, and we're obviously a New Holland dealer. But we need to have a sit down, and I'll make some phone calls on that regards. So there might be a pre-existing program from New Holland to do some type of incentive program for FFA, 4-H, stock shows.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
So they just say New Holland on it. They just Snap-on wrench.
I don't think the kids would mind. Give me the wrench.
They're nice wrenches. Our mechanics buy them. So
I'm curious about one thing. We're in the formation of all this 6 years ago. Did you have a background in showing or either of y'all?
Nope.
I didn't. My family. So my mom is from Brownwood, and all her family, does that. So all my cousins grew up doing it. We spent a bunch of time in Brownwood. So I would help. When we were in town, I'd go help my cousins. Exercise, feed, whatever they were doing. Right. And I always remember, didn't really realize it back then, but now I've never really forgot that, that my cousins had that responsibility back then. And we were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we were young kids, and they had that responsibility. I did not have that type of responsibility at that age, right? So looking back on it, that's always given me an appreciation for the kids that come and show. And, I do know what they're doing. I did not do it, but I helped, right? I saw it and for years and years, right? That's really my connection to it is, and I had some cousins that, most of my cousins, right? They weren't getting money from Mr. Holt, right? They were the kids just trying to make the sale to get the floor, right? Even if it was $500. So they're the kids we're buying, right?
Absolutely.
And that's my
I think Peter
that's
was
my
on
hook and barb.
some spicy water though, so I think that might have helped my case.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
I would have been handing him more spicy water.
At 9 years old, I don't think they would have handed it to me.
But you grew up
No.
in any of it? Just,
No, I tell people all the time I may be the only guy that you'll ever meet from Stephenville, Texas that doesn't team rope, enough belt buckle, enough cowboy hat, and ride horses. Didn't show animals,
When you
So-
wanted to coach, what sport?
Football. Football, yeah.
I can see it.
It's been my first love. My family, I have a huge football family. Still love it. So it was fun for a long time. But yeah, the football now about all I can do is be a very average golfer.
Man, that's awesome. I like the I grew up loving football too. I loved every bit of it. I kind of went down the similar path. Like I really thought about being a coach for a while, and there's sometimes I still like, man, I would love. I go to high school football games, try to go to make 1 or 2 college football games a year to watch, and but it's kind of the same thing. Like I'd love to have some money someday. I wanted to do a lot of other things, and on a teacher salary, it wasn't going to cut it. But,
You have to love it.
yeah, it's got to
Love.
yeah, a passion for
Yeah.
it. Absolutely. But
And I've got probably 30 good friends from college that are head coaches now, and I mean they speak the language. If you meet a sure enough coach that's been in it, I mean that's their deal. That's their life. Like Zach's father-in-law, coach forever. It's funny. I see him randomly retired at football games all over the place.
All the time.
That's the deal. I
That's
mean,
what
he
he
loves
does.
it. And so, what are you gonna do? Well, it's Friday. I'm gonna go find a football game to go to.
Mhm.
right,
Period.
right.
And so that's those are the guys that are successful.
Yes, sir.
I
Do
just
you have
never
any
had.
sons?
Uh-huh.
They're going to play football?
I have one. Yes, he will.
Awesome. He will.
Hopefully.
Absolutely.
See, I
He
never
was
had
so
to-
nervous. He was so nervous
Hopefully.
about. He's like, I don't know if he's going to be a football player or whatever. And they had their first game was this year, right?
Yeah. Like you don't know.
And
I mean, I told Trey Wasson, he was coaching with me, and I said, "What are you going to do?" Like what? But here's the deal: you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what if he gets out there and just
he was
Like,
so
what do you
worked
do?
up.
Yeah.
what do you do? Then you're like, "Oh no," because you don't know. And
Yeah.
so the first time you see any aggressiveness, you're like, "Oh, yeah, whew, there's a chance.
You want to come tackle me?
There's a chance."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was.
I never had the itch like Sterling did. Sterling had that itch of he loved playing football, and I loved playing the sport, not for the same reason. So I loved the what it took to get in the place to win. Right,
Yeah.
I like that part. The sport itself, I was like, man, this kind of hurts. Especially now later in life, it's like, oh, these joints. But the best part about football is I got to play with him, and man, it was anybody that gets to play with their siblings in that sport. I mean, it's the closest feeling I think, other than actually going to war, that you get to have.
Oh, yeah.
And we still use quite a bit of what we learned from our coaches. And when we were in high school, we took for granted how great we had as coaches. We had some wonderful coaches.
Yeah.
And they love the game. And I think you can definitely tell the difference from coaching staff across the board that just loves the game, that's there for the kids and there for the game, and the difference of somebody that's just not locked into it. And that's what made it so much fun for us is because we had coaches that would take time away from their family to teach us, to do film with us, to, before school workouts, after school workouts, everything was about it. And for me, like I said, he loved it. He wanted to go on. He wanted to play it in college. I didn't have that desire, but I love what it taught me. And I think kids that aren't playing football are missing that element. They get it in other sports, but just
And it's not safe.
the brutal, you're going to go out there, it's going to suck.
It's raw.
Yeah.
I mean,
We had a coach came in on my junior year. He implemented something like every Monday we're going to run 40-40s. That was like one of the worst things like I've ever had to go through. Like
So
after practice, we're gonna
mile
run
of
40-40s,
wind sprints.
and then we're going to do on Tuesdays we're going to run 2100s. Just the conditioning. We went to a small school, 2A high school, so we had to be conditioned properly, And but it was cool. I don't know. Quarterfinals, playing Shiner. Got to play our last set of downs right beside each other.
were those brothers there then?
No,
From
they
Shiner?
were Harrison's age.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a quarterback.
Those are some
though.
dudes.
Yeah, they were. I think the youngest brother was a freshman on that game, but he actually played. So we did play against the older brother.
Right.
But the quarterback of that game actually went on to play at Air Force.
Yeah.
Dude was a stud. But we played right our last set of downs, like I said, we're right beside each other. And we had a football coach that we still talk to today. Actually, 3 of them we still visit with.
Yeah.
And he put Harrison in on he thought it might be the end of the game. And it was a close game, lost 10-14, but the last set of downs, last 3 minutes, he sent Harrison in to play right beside me. And he was real close with his brother too. And they were on a class that actually won state. And so it was really, really neat to have that experience. And I'll always appreciate that coach for doing that, So they definitely have a good spot in my heart for that kind of stuff. But
Football's definitely has changed in the last since we graduated. I think 2 days is drastically different from what it was when we were there. And then the fields, the practice fields are now just nicer than what the regular fields we
The
play on.
facilities.
Yeah.
It's pretty much everything.
I'm like, we had goat heads in my practice field. Like kids would walk around with a whole burr of goat heads, and you pissed them off. You just grab it and you'd hit somebody's arm and just be goat heads, and you pull them out and you're bleeding.
Mm.
And that was the practice field. And I don't know anybody that's doing that still. Most
A lot of it's
turf, yeah. And I remember playing on our first turf field, and I'm like, how do you run in this? Like, this is slick. I'm like, where's the soft spot? We were playing Pee Wee football in a sewage field.
when I graduated, like I said, I was real passionate about football. I mean, that's all I freaking wanted to do. All I did was lift weights, and all I did was watch film. Like, I was just insanely obsessed with it. And Harrison, 2 years younger than me, and after I graduated from Thorndale, my parents moved back to Mason. So Harrison transfers to Mason, and Harrison's first year there, they moved him to tight tackle. Burns was the coach. And
Cade.
Cade was. And he was actually my coach at Thorndale for 2 years. So there was a little gap there. So we knew him and his family real well. And but they ended up making a run all the way to state. And
Yeah.
they got their butts whooped by Canadian that year. But I mean, he got to play in Jerry World and everything. And he comes back home to Mason. It's 4 a.m. And I'm like, hey, Dad, I know you're banged up and upset, but, what was it like playing in Jerry World? And, it was a close game until the second half, like he just goes, Sterling, it was really hot down there. That's all he had to say. I said, I have the game recorded on DirecTV. So you want to rewatch it? No, I don't want to rewatch it. Like, just over it, Just couldn't wait to go hop back on a dozer and get after it. And then our oldest brother, he actually played in the state game too, his senior year
Amazing.
with Hutto.
Okay.
And they played Tatum. They lost to Tatum 38-34. And then his quarterback, Jeremy Curley, ended up playing for TCU as a punt returner and slot receiver. Played for the Jets and the 49ers, like 11-year career or something like that,
The one brother that should have played in a state game in a professional setting did not get to.
And Dad was a quarterback in high school, and he was always pissed off. He goes, "I had 3 sons. Every fucking one of them was a lineman." But no, I like talking about goals and stuff. We, usually we keep this really like agriculture and construction and equipment focused, and we tie it back into entrepreneurship and things. And so it was really cool to have y'all on. And like I said, and I can tie it all back together because what the syndicate's doing for the stock show is 100% agricultural related. What your business is definitely a part of agriculture on the end of it, on the consumer aspect of it, on the producing side,
Oilfield,
and oil field construction. So all these fields of entrepreneurship tie in, and it's all networking, and it's people, and it's raising money for a better goal, right? And so I really appreciate y'all taking your time out to come on. If someone hears this and wants to donate to the cause for the syndicate, for the sale of the show, that wants to be a part of that and raise the floor, what is a good resource and outlet for them to donate to?
Probably the best resource is go to the website, SASSS.org. And there they can find all the information, contact information, buttons to click, right, to
Any
make a
questions
donation. Any
about-
questions? Yeah.
about any of it, somebody would be very happy to talk to them.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank y'all again for coming
Yeah.
on. Appreciate
Sure,
it.
thanks for having
Absolutely.
us.
Thank y'all.